The average person makes 35,000 decisions a day, and most of them are slowly making you miserable. That sounds dramatic, I know, but think about it for a second. You woke up this morning, and before you even left your bed, your phone hit you with a wall of notifications. Each one a tiny little choice. Do I check this? Do I ignore that? Do I respond now or later? And that was minute one. You haven't even picked what to wear yet. You haven't even thought about breakfast. By the time you actually start your real day, your brain's already been running a marathon, and you didn't even notice. So here's the thing nobody tells you. That foggy, drained, I don't want to do anything tonight feeling, that's not laziness. That's not you being weak or broken or bad at life. That's your brain being completely out of juice because it's been making decisions nonstop since the second you opened your eyes. And honestly, I wish someone had told me this years ago. We've all been sold this idea, right? More options, more freedom. More freedom, better life. It's like the unofficial motto of modern existence. But what if that whole story is kind of a lie? Not entirely, but enough to mess with us. What if all these choices, this giant, endless buffet of possibilities we're supposed to be grateful for, are actually one of the main reasons so many of us feel stuck, overwhelmed, quietly unhappy, and not sure why? That's what we're getting into today. Not to bum you out, but because once you actually understand what's going on under the hood, you can start doing something about it. You can start taking your energy back. Okay, so the first thing you need to know about is something called the paradox of choice. A psychologist named Barry Schwartz spent years studying this, and what he found is kind of wild. You'd think more options would make people happier, right? Nope, the opposite. More choices made people more anxious, more doubtful, and way less satisfied with whatever they ended up picking. There's this famous jam study. I swear, psychology loves grocery stores, where researchers set up a table with 24 different jams. Tons of people stopped to look, but almost nobody actually bought one. Then they tried it again with just 6 jams. Way fewer people stopped, but way more people bought. More options didn't create more joy. They created more hesitation, more, wait, but what about that one? Crazy, right? And here's why that should matter to you, like personally. Think about your average Tuesday. You wake up, phone, notifications, tiny decisions everywhere. Then you get dressed. Sounds simple, but it's still a choice. Then breakfast, then your commute, work tasks, emails, what to eat for lunch, how to respond to that weird, slightly passive-aggressive text from a friend. I know what you're thinking. Those aren't real decisions. But your brain doesn't know that. To your brain, every single one of those pulls from the same tank, the same limited supply of mental fuel. And by the evening, when you might actually want to do something that matters to you, start that project, have that conversation, plan that thing you've been putting off, the tank is empty, bone dry. Not because you're lazy, because 1,000 tiny choices already drained it when you weren't looking. I used to think I was just bad at managing my time. Honestly, I beat myself up about it for years. Turns out, it wasn't my time that was the problem. It was this invisible tax on my brain that nobody warned me about. And get this, it's also why people like Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day. Same black turtleneck, same jeans. Not because the guy lacked style, because he was protecting his decision-making energy for the stuff that actually mattered. That's not weird, that's genius. But here's where it gets even messier. Too many choices don't just make you tired, they make you feel guilty. And this one hit me hard when I first learned about it. Think about it. When you've got 40 options and you pick one, there's always this little voice in the back of your head going, but what if the other one was better? Psychology calls this anticipated regret. It's your brain running simulations of all the lives you didn't choose, all the options you left on the table. And the more options there were, the louder that voice gets. Over time, and this is the sneaky part, it doesn't just stay in that one decision, it bleeds into everything. You start second-guessing yourself at work, in relationships, in how you spend your weekends. You start living in this constant state of almost but not quite, like you're always one choice away from the better version of your life. And that feeling, that low-grade, always humming dissatisfaction, That's one of the most exhausting things a person can carry around. But, and I really need you to hear this, if that sounds like you, if you're someone who agonizes over choices, who feels the weight of decisions more than the people around you seem to, that's not a flaw. That's not something to fix. That's actually a sign you care deeply about the quality of your life. You're not indecisive because you're weak. You're indecisive because you're paying attention. You take things seriously. You want to make the right call, not just the fast one. And in a world that rewards snap judgments and just pick already energy, being someone who actually pauses and thinks, that's emotional intelligence. Most people don't even realize they're missing it. Now here's the part that honestly shook me when I first understood it. Too many choices don't just drain you and guilt trip you. They create this illusion of control that keeps you from ever feeling settled, ever. When you believe happiness is just one better decision away, you never actually land anywhere. You're always scrolling, always browsing, always comparing, always optimizing. Your whole life becomes a shopping cart you never check out. Psychologists actually have names for this. They talk about maximizers versus satisficers. A maximizer is someone who has to look at every single option before they can choose, because they need to know they pick the absolute best one. A satisficer picks the first thing that's good enough and moves on with their life. And guess who's happier every time? The satisficers. Not even close. Not because they have low standards, but because they're not trapped on that hamster wheel of comparison. They chose, they committed, they moved on. I was a maximizer for years, and I called it being thorough. I would spend weeks researching a purchase that cost $30. I'd agonize over career moves for months. I'd mentally map out every possible version of my future and then feel paralyzed by them all. And I thought that was the responsible way to live. To be fair, it took me an embarrassingly long time to see what was really going on. What I was calling thoroughness was actually avoidance wearing a really convincing disguise, because as long as I was still deciding, I never had to commit. And as long as I never committed, I never had to face the terrifying possibility that I might be wrong. And that leads to maybe the most important thing I'll say in this whole video. Too many choices don't just exhaust you, they keep you from building the kind of life that only comes from sticking with something long enough for it to actually become something. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who've built something real, a deep skill, a relationship that actually lasted, work that means something. Almost none of them got there by keeping every door open forever. They got there by closing doors, by picking one thing and staying with it long enough for it to become extraordinary. And that's the uncomfortable truth about freedom, isn't it? Real freedom isn't about having unlimited options. Real freedom is having the clarity to choose one thing and the guts to let go of everything else. So look, if you've been feeling overwhelmed lately, if you've been stuck in that loop of comparing and second-guessing, if your life feels weirdly full but somehow empty at the same time, I want you to sit with this for a second. The problem isn't you. It was never you. The problem is the architecture of the world you're living in. Every app on your phone, every algorithm feeding your scroll, every marketplace showing you 900 versions of the same thing, they're all designed to keep you choosing, because choosing keeps you engaged, and engagement keeps you consuming. Your brain was never built for this. No one's was. But here's what I love about all of this. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, you can start stepping out of it. You can start simplifying, not because you're giving up, but because you're finally done performing the exhausting theater of optimization, and you're ready to just live. Set some boundaries around your decisions. Build routines that protect your energy. Practice choosing something good and letting it be enough. The most peaceful version of your life is probably not the one with the most options. It's the one where you've made a few deep, clear choices and given yourself permission to stop looking over your shoulder. That's not settling, that's wisdom, and it's available to you right now, today, the moment you decide you don't need every door open to have a life that actually means something. If any of this hit different for you, if it put words to something you've been feeling but couldn't quite explain, then I think you'd really love what we do here every week. We talk about the parts of being human that nobody explains to you, the patterns running underneath your everyday life, and we do it in a way that's meant to make you feel understood, not picked apart. So if you're not subscribed yet, Come hang out, hit that button, drop a thought in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.